we can't mention Trent without mentioning the other two, because naturally people are looking on those and thinking, and you understand this, David, we've got to get those two done now. We've lost one. We've got to get those two done. There's no excuse. There is massive pressure on them to get these done now, it feels, doesn't it? And I know we've said it before. You can understand if people hammer them now if they don't get these two done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've spoke for a long while about the idea that 2 out of 3 kind of wouldn't be the worst outcome in the world. But now we know that one of those 3 is definitely going. Therefore, you have to get the next 2. You have to get these 2 signed up. It absolutely has to happen, because, to lose Trent and his importance to the team, to then lose your other 2 most important players will be absolute madness. What it does as well, by the way, in terms of these contract negotiations, it strengthens Van Dijk and Salah's hands massively, because they know that pressure exists as well. They also know Liverpool have a little bit more money in the pot because they're not giving 300 grand a week to the right back. So these are all factors in it. But it puts a lot of pressure on getting those negotiations done and getting it all sorted out. So really interested to see if they're able to do that, and because they simply have to. I just, okay, this has added one more thing to the summer that they need to do, which was already probably going to be busy because of several positions that needed strengthening. And you can't allow for these 2 to go as well, because it becomes a complete rebuild then. And there's absolutely no chance that Liverpool will be anywhere near the level they've shown this season if you lose Trent and then you throw in losing these 2 as well, because we're talking about literally 3 of the best players in the world, arguably the 3 best players in the world in their positions. You can't allow it to go 3 for 3. You can't even allow to just retain 1. It's not enough. There's huge pressure on the owners and also the sporting director and all the staff around that to get these done now. There's just no excuses, I don't think.
And I know this is kind of a bad question to ask, but it's right, and it's probably not going to be a good answer. But this also doesn't bring that the other 2 are going to get done, because, as you said, in negotiations, Rami for Salah and Van Dijk's agent are going to say, well, hold on, you've just got about 250 grand a week more to play with. My clients are more valuable. And also that all the chips are on their side of the table. This Liverpool have got pressure, but it doesn't bring a quick resolution to the other 2, does it?
No, but what I would say is that both have made quite clearly want to stay, and that is probably the main ingredient here that's really, really important. Because, look, like we said about Trent, at the end of the day, maybe all these mitigating circumstances we're talking about, Jurgen Klopp's role, how that changed, the ownership, what they could have done around it, it just come down to ultimately that he wanted to go in the end. So, the key factor here is with Van Dijk and Salah, they have made it really abundantly clear that they both want to stay. So that's a really important ingredient here that Liverpool can use and make the most of. You've got 2 players absolutely desperate to extend the stays at Anfield, and so you've got to go make the most of it and get it sorted out. And we're talking about a quick resolution. It has to be a quick resolution, because June is around the corner and they'll be out of contract. Yeah. So it actually has to be quick. We don't have a lot of time to play with. But both players, unlike Trent, both players have absolutely said that they're desperate to stay and desperate to be part of this. And so that, in theory, makes it a little bit easier for Liverpool.
And do you think, I suppose the final one I want to ask on this for the other 2, we talk about data-led decisions, and that's what, we're coming back into, the sort of the scientific, the analysis, quite, which has served us well. In that essence, is there a bit for you thinking, well, if you want to replace Trent, you can't find other Trents. You've got to get like 3 players, replace him in the aggregate, as they say. That if you then take out Van Dijk and Salah, you're going to have to get 9 players in to replace them in the aggregate type of thing. So the total cost of that against losing. Do you think just that data element will see it, even if they wouldn't want to pay this, them think, now we need to get these done, even if we pay more than we necessarily want to?
One of the big things they'll know about as well is that turnover will lead to ups and downs in terms of performance. You look at Chelsea, the amount of players that they brought in and sold over the last few years, they just can't find any consistency whatsoever. That generally when there is a huge turnover of players, it causes you problems. So that will be something you can measure in data. So that, for me, more than anything, will be the thing that will drive Liverpool. Even, as you say, there might be some reluctance to go to certain figures or whatever, but I think they might be much more willing to compromise now, Liverpool, because they know like I say, you're already losing one of your starters. So the first game of the next Premier League season, Trent is already not going to be there. You'd say the same for probably Nunez as well, isn't going to be there if you can't count him as a starter up front. So, you're already starting with some turnover there in your team. Ideally, you want your left back to be slightly different as well. So we're talking about 3 positions changing there. Imagine you start turning that into 4, into 5. There's no way Liverpool make a good start to the season if that is the case, because the relationships aren't there. They need to work together. So I think Liverpool will want to just keep that turnover to a minimum. They want to know going into next season, the very first game of it, Virgil van Dijk's going to be our centre-half. We've got Mo Salah at right wing. And then, of course, maybe a couple of signings sprinkled in there. But they don't want that turnover. So that's going to be an absolutely... that's going to be a massive part, I think, of making sure they get it done. And there is also that external media pressure as well from fans, from the media. Just, can you really justify trying to letting all 3 of these players go in one summer? I think that pressure will slightly tell them, as much as they are very good at blocking out the external noise, this is too much for them to allow, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with that. We'll have to see what develops. And Ethan Chadwick puts there, we just need VVD and Mo to stay now. We need something good news. Believe me, Ethan, there's nothing more I'd be doing or happier doing a pod with David talking about 2 superstars, 2 elite players, talking and staying. We didn't want to be talking about a player leaving, but that's where we are with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Liverpool have now got the unenviable task of replacing him and looking at what they can do in the future. But we'll have to see any further updates on contracts, which we pray are more positives. All it leaves me to say as ever is, we didn't want to do this, David, but for your time, your insight, are answering all the questions honestly. A few crackpots in the chat panel, which is always interesting. It is much appreciated.
No, thanks for having me. And hopefully we're not doing these ones for Mo Salah and Van Dijk as well, because there's absolutely no way justifying that one.
No, none at all. But ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.